Kapapasok lang po na balita, sa Senado, kasalukuyang nagbibigay ng privilege speech si Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile. Pakinggan po natin.
A leader must not play blind and deaf when the institution he serves and its members are unfairly and unduly dragged into the mud with him. The standing to impair the confidence of those who invested that mantle of leadership upon him. The honor, Mr. President of this chamber, must be spared from the rapacity and the sly, cunning, and ruinous machinations of some people among us here who only have their political ambitions and self-interest in mind. One senator is so desperate that he has repeatedly and shamelessly invoked and sought Malacanang's involvement and intervention just to get enough support to oust me. He continues to make a mockery, if he understood it at all, of the Senate as an independent institution. Of threats and rumors, we have had enough. I'm way too old to be threatened by anyone. Least of all by cowards and hypocrites. And so therefore, Mr. President, I move that the position of Senate President be declared vacant. I ask that my motion be immediately put to a vote to pave the way for Madam Miriam Defensor Santiago, Senator Antonio Trillanes, any of the Cayetano siblings, or anyone else here in the Senate who may share the same sentiments against my leadership and who may be secretly interested in this job, the chance to be nominated and to seek the majority support to be elected as the new leader of this Senate. Whether or not I continue to have the trust and support of my colleagues in leading this chamber is a matter that lies purely in their hands to decide. As I have repeatedly said in the past, I serve at the pleasure of the majority of my colleagues. I claim no vested right to this high position, and no one else has. And whether I was in the minority or the majority, all these years that I've been here in the Senate, I have tried my best to serve and to perform my role with equal dedication to my duty as a Senator of the Republic. Let us not allow ourselves to be further derailed and distracted. Replacing me does not have to take so much effort, planning or plotting. I'm tired of plots. And I don't advertise plots if I do something like that. That's only the work of braggarts. This seems to me to be the preoccupation of some people in this chamber and a constant fodder for the rumor mill. And it is such a waste of time and energy. Let us settle, Mr. President, this matter once and for all. And let us not tarry, so that in the very few remaining days we still have left, we can get on with the business of urgent legislation. Time, Mr. President, is of the essence, and we owe it to the Filipino people to perform our duty. And so, Mr. President, with that, I reiterate my motion to declare the position of Senate President vacant. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I object, Mr. President, to the motion.
Majority Leader?
I would like to object to the motion, Mr. President. I do not agree. I would like to associate with what the Senate President has mentioned. I denounce the attacks and insinuations not only on the Senate President but the Senate itself. But I cannot agree to the motion that he has filed, Mr. President. So I object.
What is the
You recognize
pleasure
Senator
of,
Lacson.
Senator Lacson?
I was about to rise, Mr. President, to object to the motion of the Senate President. So I have the same objection, so I move to divide the House.
There is a motion by the Senate President to declare the position of the Senate President vacant. And there is an objection by two members of the chamber. We will now proceed to the division of the House. Those in favor of the motion of the Senate President to declare the position of the Senate President vacant, please raise your right hand. Those not in favor of the motion of the Senate President to declare the position of the Senate President vacant, please raise your right hand. With 2 senators in favor of the motion of the Senate President and 10 against the motion of the Senate President, the motion of the Senate President is lost.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Leader.
I move to refer the privileged speech of the Senate President to the Committee on Ethics so that they will be notified of the contents of the speech, Mr. President.
The privileged speech of the Senate President is hereby referred to the Committee on Ethics.
Mr. President, I move that we approve or dispense with the reading and approve the journals of the 45th session and the 46th session and consider them as approved, Mr. President.
Any objection?
Mr. President, I withdraw my motion.
Motion has
There are
been
members who wish to read the journal, so not to
We will just defend
not to ask the secretary to read it. I withdraw the motion, Mr. President.
Motion has been withdrawn.
I move that we proceed with the reference of business, Mr. President. Mahaba ba? Mr. President, again, this is the second time I withdraw my motion. Instead, like to acknowledge the UP Los Baños BS Economics students headed by Ms. Amelia Bello, present here in the hall, Mr. President. And then I move to consider for third reading Senate Bill 3286 under Committee Report 409.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved.
May we request this?
Ang inyo pong napakinggan kanina ay ang talumpati ni Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile kaugnay ng planong pagpapatalsik sa kanya bilang Senate President. Nagdeklara po ang mambabatas na naghain po actually ng mosyon si Senate President Enrile na ideklarang bakante ang posisyon bilang Senate President para raw magkaroon ng pagkakataon na kumandidato o tumakbo yung mga interesado dun sa posisyon niya.
Pagkatapos na yung partner paringgan, yung mga bumabati ko sa kanya in the past days, ano? At agad rin nilang niresolba yan at nagbotohan sila sa motion. Ang pagbobotohan lamang ay sang-ayon nga ba kayo ibakante ang Senate presidency o hindi. 10 senador po ang bumoto kontra sa pagbabakante sa posisyon ng Senate President. Ang
dadalawa na bumoto pabor na gawing bakante ang posisyong Senate President ay sina Senador Coco Pimentel at Senador Trillanes.
Pero kapansin-pansin wala doon sila Senator Miriam, yung mga
nabanggit niya sa kanyang
yung mga naririnig nating kabakbakan niya ngayong mga nakalipas na araw.
Yes, Mr. President.